Hi, Erin.
Hi, Belinda. It's great to be with you.
Great to be with you too. Thanks so much for agreeing to be interviewed. I have Erin Brindley on here to share her testimonial as an unschooling parent. So I'm going to start with your bio, Erin. Erin Brindley is a wife, unschooling mama, and ordinary human on a quest to fulfill her extraordinary calling. The adventure these last 4 years has taken her and her three young children around the country as she reimagines their former life in American suburbia into a more aligned life in touch with neighbors and nature. She craves Coldwater Creek plunges, crafting comedy sketches, and connecting with others who enjoy trading tales, trails, laughter, and wisdom gained along this gifted journey called life on planet Earth. Erin, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Well, thank you for that, Belinda. I think that this conversation is going to generate a lot of things that will be fun to add along the way to flesh out our journey and hopefully inspire others who are on a similar journey.
Yes, or could be on a similar journey.
Yes.
All right, so you've been unschooling your three children,
Mhm.
and I would love for you to share what inspired you to do so.
Yes. Wow. I know that the gift of looking back and reflecting on our lives, we can see how everything was connected. And it's such a joy to be able to reflect, oh, wow, that had to happen for me to see this. If I were just to talk about our journey from a more traditional, conventional family into an unschooling, self-directed learning model, I would point to probably three things when my oldest, who's now 10, was in that age 4, just turning 5 time frame. And I had been a full-time working mom in a traditional position that required me to be on at certain times to clock in, to clock out. And I did not realize how much I was letting an external construct dictate the decisions I was making for my family. And I felt called to the job. And so I was trying to be faithful in that. But I look back in hindsight and I realized so much of my creative life force was expended in finding childcare for my daughter and doing the demands of maintaining this schedule that didn't give me the freedom to actually tap in what do I foundationally want our family to be about. So I was feeling led out of that position when my son, was just a few months old. I'd gone back to work after maternity leave, and I was knowing in my spirit that it was time to move on. And so I did leave that position, but because we had to find childcare for my daughter, because I'd been working full time for her first 4.5 years now, she was in a Montessori school, which was as closely aligned as we could think of, respectful of the child, a peaceful environment. But she gave us a divine message. And I know this will resonate with you, Belinda, from the messages you shared, because when we are confronted with perhaps a behavioral situation with our children, we can either say, what in my child needs to be fixed in order for them to conform to the environment, or what is my child's telling me? What message are they offering? How can I honor this message? And we were up against that a few months after I left work. My daughter just turned 5, and so she was there a little bit longer, and she started showing real behavioral disruptions in the classroom that were very uncharacteristic. And I could choose to be insecure. "Oh, what's wrong with my kid? How do we fix her?" Or I could really embrace that. And what we chose to do is listen in of, I don't think she needs to be fixed to fit this environment. She is giving us a clear message that this is not an environment that she is thriving in. And I am so grateful, even though it was in a disruptive sense and it had the guides questioning every practice that they knew. And we pulled her out right there in the middle of the year and said, this is not working for her for some reason. And we brought her home. And I had finished a full-time working position. I was home with my son, and I had a lightning bolt moment that week where everything clicked, and I thought, why didn't I see this before? This fits our values. This is so much more aligned. Siblings, are with mom, are interacting with dad when he's around, are seeing the flow of household and are interacting in a dynamic way, are learning cooperation and character building and habits that are made to be in the context of the family and the wider community. I hadn't seen this before because I had let the external, got to fit the structure of this working schedule into my life rather than how do I build the foundation. And we had a gift that came the next week too. I'll add this as maybe the third pivotal factor that really launched us in this direction. And that would be someone I mentioned it to said, "Oh, have you considered these nature groups?" And there was a specific one in our area. She's like, "Oh, I think they just meet at nature preserves and state parks, that kind of thing." And so
Perfect.
we just joined the next week. My husband and I come from a public school background, traditional,
Don't we
conventional,
all?
modern America, nothing unusual about our background. This was very unfamiliar territory. But our first introduction to like a homeschool kind of a setting was in nature with moms and kids of all
Perfect.
ages. It was led by the children. It was hours at a time of free play. It would
Yes.
it would grow into camping trips together. And then COVID
Yes.
came and we felt still free to meet without masks,
Yes.
engage person to person, and felt the freedom to continue. And that was my first foray into the homeschooling world, and things would birth and grow and develop from there. But I consider all of those three things to be pivotal and gifts in our story that would take us in a direction I would never have known to consider.
Okay, so I want to make a couple comments.
Uh-huh.
One is I love that your story basically exemplifies what I often will tell parents.
Mhm,
If you set the intention of showing up for your child and pulling them away from systems that don't work, the
mhm.
universe provides with
Yeah.
everything that that child needs and your family needs.
Mhm,
Secondly, oftentimes when you're referencing your story, you have said, we listened in to what she's trying to tell us.
mhm,
And then we decided the nature. So your husband from day one has been
mhm.
on board. Like he did not have any reservations in pulling her out when you could see that she was giving you a message.
Thank you for asking that question because I think that's really invaluable. One of my um, personal evolution and growth points has been in the nature of extraordinary partnerships and understanding men and how we interact. And my husband and I have had to go through a lot of bumps and challenges. But one thing that I see in this journey for us is our expression of trust for each other. So this was unusual and took a lot longer for my husband to wrap his mind around. But essentially, just like I say, I trust you in a lot of realms I don't put my fingers in our life and our family and his work and some of the ways that he handles finances and some other things that we don't both need to have our hands in everything.
Yeah.
He was willing to say, okay, I trust you on this one. Um, Tell me more and let's see. And I think I need to understand a little bit more. And so it's not like it's been a once and done, but it has been an expression of trust in our child, trust in each other, trust in our own intuition, that he even explicitly says, I want to show you I trust your intuition. And that sometimes causes and leads to some beautiful, robust conversations, right? Where he's thinking about one thing one way and I'm feeling about something another
Yes.
way. But thank you for bringing attention. It hasn't been without bumps, but it has been, I'd say the overarching theme is how do we trust each other? How do
Yeah.
we trust this journey? And how do we, maybe we'll get to this a little bit later on in the conversation because it's been a big one. How do we do the hard work of dialing into our fears? So that our
Yes.
fears aren't dictating our decisions, that
That's
we're
a big
free
one.
to risk or free to try and see if something is working or not working.
Right.
But I would say that's been a big one. Maybe we'll talk about it more later. But thank you for asking that.
Yeah, of course, because I find that that's a common theme, with
Mhm.
families. Mothers are more intuitive,
Yeah.
and we sort of drive that desire to let our children self-direct their lives because
Mhm.
we see that that is what is needed in these
Mhm.
times and has been what was needed.
Mhm.
I think we're just a little bit more intuitive than maybe people were in the past.
Mhm.
And I just recently interviewed Dr. Joseph Ladapo, who is Florida's Surgeon General. So
Ah,
him and his wife, and they also homeschool. And I asked them the same question, and he was just like, "Yeah, basically, Brianna just kind of pulled the Band-Aid off."
mhm. Mhm.
And it's just that, and I love that you mentioned it is the trust. I really appreciate that my husband trusts this
Mhm.
decision that we've made as well.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean it's an ongoing conversation, and he might offer some guidance or input or play a different role. It's fun even to think about. My husband grills briskets, and he loves doing that. But we have now all this grass-fed beef tallow, which is such a prized thing to
Yes.
have so much of. And he was like, "I wonder what we could do with this." And he talked with my daughter, who's 10, and she was 9 at the time, and they decided to figure out how to make soap out of it. And now she has a soap business and she sold at
Perfect.
markets. And honestly, he did more of the chemistry in the kitchen when I was with the littles who, lie and the reactions, and they helped some with some other parts of the soap making process. But we can each play a different role and bring some of our interests to it that I think he's been so much more empowered as he's seen the possibilities it opens up for our whole family, which is so fun. But you mentioned something about the ripping the band-aid off kind of thing, and it just
Yeah.
reminded me that I think we were prepared in
Yeah.
some ways because we had when we first got married, we didn't know anything. Well, maybe we knew a little bit, but about eating healthy, about what we put in our bodies, about where our food is grown, about being in touch with regenerative agriculture or organic food products, of how our bodies really function and are optimized to be our vital selves that we're designed to be. And so we were already going down some unconventional, now becoming more common to talk about approaches to life and well being that I think we were prepared then to choose maybe another unconventional path from maybe
Right.
the way that we were raised when it comes to the education kind of decision. So I see it as a natural progression of some of the other learning we were doing together as a couple and as a family. So that's a helpful part of bringing in the yes, choosing a different path kind of approach.
Yes, that's a very good point. And, when you're saying this, it makes me think that, yeah, you guys were public school educated. We were
Mhm.
public school educated, and we know nothing about health. We knew nothing about health.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now we know better. And so it's really important to really embrace the regenerative farming,
Mhm.
understanding being closer to nature, understanding how we're all connected. The health and the wellness of
Mm.
ourselves is not just, the physical.
Yeah.
And that's how we can bring that to our children. So even if people have kids that need to be in conventional school because you have a full-time job or whatever, always making sure that you are bringing these values into your home if the
Mhm.
school isn't going to provide it. We know the schools don't.
Mhm.
And then also, I was just having a conversation with a friend, like if you are in a conventional school, you also are empowered. You have the choice to bring these ideas into the school. I mean, I
Mhm.
firmly believe that every school should have a working garden, and
Yes.
that is not
Yes.
difficult to do. It
Yes.
might be difficult because a lot of us don't really know how to do it, but
Mhm.
nature is so forgiving. If they just take the time to
Mhm.
learn, it's so valuable. And this is what we need. We need for children to understand the value of the land and what
Mhm.
can it can provide us.
Yes, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree because I think what you're saying, Belinda, is make whatever choice you feel led to or need to as a family, but do it conscientiously. Be intentional. Work with what you do have, and we all have limiting factors in some regard, whether we're unschoolers or whether we're in a conventional setting. But make the most of the environment and the options you do have. Bring intentionality. Bring your values and priorities and enrichment to it, and that's just a key empowerment because it applies to all of us, no
Right.
matter what setting we're in. Mhm.
Exactly. So, in what ways do
Mhm.
you feel have you expanded since entering this world of learning from your littles?
Yes. Wow. What a great question. So many directions we could go. Some of the first things that come to mind are removing the shoulds and removing the standards. That really comes to mind. Those two S's. Gotta go. What I should be doing as a mom, and my kids should be learning, and what our days should look like, and what standards we need to have to make sure they're on track for success. And all of these things, they're just arbitrary. And
Yes.
they're really they're not designed to tune in to what is our best flourishing for individual families, individual grown-ups, and individual beautiful children. And so there's been a freedom, but like I said earlier, and we touched on, and I know is such a big part of your work, the trust. You've got to restore the trust in your own intuition and your child's expression to be able to say, we have what it takes to craft our own guidance to what would help each one of us fulfill our divine path in this world. We don't actually need the shoulds and the standards to tell us what to do. Those are actually, it goes back to roots of fear. I think, again, that conversation, am I willing to deal with my own fears? Oh, what if my kid doesn't have this opportunity, or what if they don't learn this, or what if this puts them in a risky situation, or what if they're not successful or happy, or whatever it is. It's different for all of us, but we have to mind those steps in order to be a place of a freedom that I do not fear or concern myself with how other people judge the decisions we're making for our family. Because if we decide we're going down the wrong path, we can course correct, and we've learned from it. Like, they're really, it's a win-win. So I would think that's a really big one that's helped me expand as a person and as I parent, and just a greater freedom. I would also say the spaciousness. I do say one of my many mottos is, we're not in a hurry. And we have pulled back from the typical, life is scheduled, life is busy. When people ask, how are you doing? Oh, it's busy. I'm like, I don't say that because we're not busy. We're not
Right.
go, go, go. My kids wake up when they're ready and eat when they're
Yes.
hungry. And
Right.
we usually don't schedule things in the morning because that's
Yes.
the optimal self directed, initiative taking, flourishing time of creative learning and expression, and a mom doing things of the household and connected and available and reading. All these wonderful things happen in this magical time when we're not scheduled. So I would say to pull back and say, what do I want my life to be back? I don't need to schedule it in with what everyone tends to do when they have a 10, 6, 3-year old and a baby on the way. Like, I really don't need it to be dictated by the norms. So that spaciousness is a big one for us. And then the freedoms that come along with what learning is. You in my bio mentioned that I have been on a 4-year journey with my family, just over 4 years. I had a very unexpected vision in 2021 that essentially, in the middle of the night, nursing my son, I heard, sell your house and find land. And we're in suburbia. We're just north of Dallas in a big city. And it wasn't something we were considering. It wasn't a plan that we'd had for future. And it has taken us on such the most beautiful faith growth oriented adventure. But my kids and I have gone to nearly half the states in the country road tripping in our little Camry. And we have volunteered on organic farms. We have camped. We have seen places and experienced new people, and just environments. And the growth that comes from that is, I just look at it and I'm like, my kids have not had a conventional upbringing. And I'm so grateful for what they do
Oh,
have. It's been
grateful.
so worth it. The
Oh my
freedoms
God.
that we have to learn in more expansive ways. And that's where the expansion has come for me personally. Choosing a model that isn't just about educating my kids frees
Right.
me up to continue to grow with
Right.
them, to
Right.
continue to develop my callings and who I'm supposed
Right.
to be in the context of learning alongside and guiding and nurturing my family. So there are challenges, as though there always are, but I can't help but gush excitement and possibility and enjoyment on this beautiful life I get to live. So
Oh
those
my
are
gosh,
some
Erin,
of the things.
your
Mhm,
story is so empowering and so inspiring because
mhm,
when you talk about the expansion that you feel and it allows you the freedom to grow with your children,
mhm,
that
mhm.
is a conversation that is never brought up as
Yeah.
far as when you are having a child. We are always learning, and
Mhm,
as human beings, we're creative beings.
mhm,
And oftentimes when you're in a job,
mhm,
you've lost that creativity and it squelches it out of you,
mhm,
especially conventional school sort of squelches it out of you. So we
mhm.
kind of walk on this path that is completely not creative.
Yeah.
And here you are exemplifying what life can be.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Belinda, because it's been an unfolding journey. I've had to deprogram so much and get in touch with who I am and get in touch with what I'm called to do and get in touch with my internal creative life force, which I didn't even know was so dormant. And it was just pushed down and saying this isn't something that's selfish. This isn't something that I do independent of my kids. What if it was all designed to flourish in the context of the community, of the family, and the wider community
Yeah.
too? And it's so interesting because one of the first questions, I don't know, maybe you get this too when you're in this model, and you might mention, oh, do your kids go to school? And I said, oh, we're more of the unschooling life, schooling self-directed family. And they say, oh, what curriculum do you use? People, it's
Right.
such a like quick question that people ask. And I like to a little bit flip it on its head with like grace and kindness and say, well, actually, one of the biggest curriculums is my curriculum. How am I learning and growing? What am I modeling for my kids? Like, so that the skills and the character that I'm growing into and what I'm learning in relational dynamics and what I'm learning in meditation and prayer and some of those disciplines, what I'm learning in my nervous system regulation that I'm applying on a consistent basis and health and nourishment and getting in touch with the earth, all of these things, my curriculum is their curriculum, is our curriculum. And
Yes.
this is human skills. This is
It's
life
life.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
life. It's living life.
so I'd like to expand this idea of curriculum because it's such a popular question. I feel like it's such an
Right.
easy inroad to give a different taste of a different perspective.
I
Um,
love that. When you were talking about you and your children have hit so many states
mhm,
in the country,
mhm.
was it just you and your children because your husband was working?
Yeah, so he has a full-time job based out of Dallas. He can work remote,
Mhm.
and but he mostly works here. And we have seen our approach as a little bit of a divide and conquer because when I had this vision, his first thought was, oh, that would be a lot of work, but I'll pray and think about that. Um,
I love
and
that.
he has really taken upon himself to learn so many practical life skills to remodel and upgrade our home here to get it ready to rent or sell. And so I do joke that he's learned so many skills and acquired so many tools that he can just build our next home.
Yes. Right.
And he's like my 6-year-old was out using the power saw the other night. Talk about engaging fears
Exactly.
and risks of like he was out there by himself. He had been instructed how to use it safely and he was out. My husband was talking to me in the kitchen and our son's out there using the power saw cutting wood. But,
That's
um,
exactly it.
but just, I have done a lot of the travel on my own with the kids. My sister is an integral part of our journey toward land and a different way of life. And so
Yeah.
she has accompanied some of the travels. And there has been a recent travel, just a providential direction last fall that has so much promise that my husband was able to work remote for almost a month and come on a farm with us. But
Wow.
sometimes since we volunteered, he couldn't do that with a remote
Right.
schedule. He wouldn't be able to put in the volunteer hours, or since we've been a few days here, a few days there, staying with connections or family connections, connections of connections of connections
Yeah.
in different places, it hasn't been feasible with his
Right.
schedule. So he
Right.
hasn't joined us for most of the travels. And that's where we tap into the trust. Do I trust what he's doing to contribute to the flourishing and the well-being of our family in the direction we all feel called to in this vision? And does he trust the input that I'm providing and the intuitive led direction that I'm providing? Because I talk about it going in cycles of inspiration, cycles of action, cycles of sitting. And what did I learn from that? So it'll often come, I really think we're supposed to explore this area. Let me look into options. Wow. Richard, what do you think? I feel like I'm supposed to take the kids to this area and do this, or meet with this person, or volunteer on this farm. And he's almost like he says, sure, just like we do it very frugally and we do it in a way that honors the experience and the relational connection of things of value to
Yeah.
us. And then I'm saying with my life and body, I appreciate the work that you are providing well for our family and that
Yeah.
you are contributing from what you're doing back here. So everyone plays a role and it doesn't have to look the same. And that's what extraordinary partnerships that my husband and I are just exploring even more deeply can be.
Yeah.
Of we don't need to both do the same thing to
Right.
be equals in that regard. We can have our distinctive roles in the life of the family.
I think that's really beautiful because I feel like a lot of times people feel like they have to travel together as a family because obviously the husband wants to see it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also as far as time and commitment, it's okay to just go by yourself with the kids because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it's really about the kids getting the experience,
Hmm.
this human connection,
Yes.
connecting with others all over the place.
Mm-hmm. And it's opened me up to a field that's deepened my connection with our energy, and our spiritual attunement, all of these concepts that I believe are part of our innate wiring that we've been programmed out of, because so much of the value of these travels has been to put our feet on land, to engage face to face with real human beings, because it vibes isn't just a cool word, trendy word these days. Like,
Right,
it is an authentic exchange of energy
right.
and spirit that is so compelling and discerning for our journey. And it's an essential. It's not an option for us to find resonant land, resonant community, the fulfillment of this vision that isn't just for us, it's for the overflow of our life calling. And so we need to be out there. And so that trust, it's been fun to be able to tap in deeper. It's been a growth point for me. This journey has just
Oh
been so
gosh.
growth
So
oriented.
beautiful. This is
Mhm.
such a beautiful story. So, I mean, you've basically shared your growth, your own growth and evolution as parents
Mhm.
around this.
Yeah.
It's actually just kind of like the evolution of your own relationship
Yeah.
between you and your husband.
Yeah, it has been. And I don't know your full background, Belinda, but I made an intentional decision a year or so ago to honor men and to learn to understand them better. And I had a very humbling undoing of some of the programming that I was raised in my context, in the time I was born, in the place I was born, about how I'm supposed to view men and how I'm supposed to view women, and how we interact, how we judge, how we assume, how we interpret behaviors and actions. And I've had a very humbling process, but I've been divinely led to some beautiful resources that have enriched my appreciation for how men are wired differently than women, and how women are wired, how we can work, regardless if it's a romantic relationship or whether it's a partnership in business or just wider family or friendship, that we can come from a place of curiosity to say, what if no one is misbehaving? One of the greatest resources I've come across is a woman named Alison Armstrong, and her understanding men, understanding women, and some of these core ways that we interact, and we get at human instinct. It's instinct, it's not personal, but once we understand instinct, we have the choice of this victory of human spirit to be able to then choose how we're going to respond. And we have so many tools now. If this is instinct and that's why they responded this way or I responded this way, now I can make a conscious choice and how I interact. And I have pulled back layers of assumptions I've had, interpretations I've had. It's been so humbling, as I've already said, but it has opened the door to a belief that in this evolving world and this new world that we're headed toward and that we can help create, extraordinary partnerships have to be a part of it. And I want my children seeing a beautiful, loving, affectionate, supportive, appreciative partnership. And we've had a lot to work through. That hasn't always been the case, but my kids have been a catalyst saying, I want them to see more. I know there's more. I know there's more for a loving relationship and partnership. How can I explore resources that help me get there? And how can I do my humbling work to get at those places I might not want to see in myself, that open me up to the vulnerability and to see what's there. And honestly, whether it's partnerships or whether it's your fear of death, I've had the birth death conversation. How do I believe we birth kids? How do I think about death and eternal souls and the potential death of people I love? I think fears, like I've said, drive so many of our decisions if we don't go there. These Are we willing to go to these hard places so that they don't hinder our capacity to love? They don't hinder our capacity to enter in.
Yeah.
We see the best and worst parts of ourselves so that we can more fully become alive. So such good
So,
topics.
did Allison Armstrong write a book? Or is
She
she a
has written books.
coach?
She has been studying men for more than 30 years. She came at it with a very distasteful view of men and her interactions in her earlier life and thought, okay, I'm going to study them for a few months and I'll figure out everything there is to know about men. She has been studying men for over 30 years now. She has extensive online resources. I don't know that she does many live events anymore, but she has most of her courses have been put online, but she is a beautiful soul with a mission. She says her mission is to bring heaven to earth. And she is about extraordinary partnerships and the insight, illumination, and empowerment with real tools that she gives to men and women. I have told so many friends, if there's anything you do for your marriage, do the Understanding Men course with Allison Armstrong, or if you can, do the Understanding Women too. But even if you only do those two basic level courses, she's so many resources out there. It is very insightful to say, wow, I have been operating from a point of view that has not enabled men or women to bring out the best in each other. We act with opposing instincts. We're designed that way. We're designed to be complementary. Relationships are doomed because we're acting on instinct. But if we can see instinct for what it is, we can triumph with the victory of human spirit and make conscious choices in how we interact. And then the sky's the limit.
Right.
I say that through some of those resources and other resources I've come across in my own inner work, that we now have our ceiling off on the possibility of extraordinary. Like there used to feel like this ceiling we kept bumping on of like, it just feels like a relationship is status quo, but there's more, there's got to be more.
Exactly
And so
right.
doing some of this work has been invaluable for us.
Thank you. I
Mhm.
mean, we're on here to talk about children, but really it's always our own work, and the relationship work is
Yeah,
so important.
it
And
is.
you're right, there's got to be more than this.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, just it reminds me of when my daughter was younger, I always would say, girls rule, boys drool. And my husband would get so mad. But I'm just like, but I have my own ideas of what
Mhm.
boys are like. And you're
Yeah,
right, I could do
yeah,
some more work. So I'm
yeah.
going to go check her out.
Yes. I would love follow up and let me know what you think and what you learn. I feel like there's so many nuggets that you're going to find something that
Yeah,
empowers
oh,
you.
for sure.
Mhm,
All right, so you have a belief that
mhm,
children are whole beings
mhm,
worthy of the same respect we would show anybody else.
mhm. Yeah.
Can you please share with us what this looks like in your family?
Mhm. Yeah, good one, Belinda. This is our all of us are individual, beautiful, sovereign beings and seeing each other with respect. I feel like I've been on a growth journey to explore this more deeply. Even though I've grown, having children has been such a catalyst for my own growth. I can see the ways I had the confidence to press in intuitively from the very beginning with my oldest when she was a newborn. Oh, she's hungry, nurse her when she's hungry, let her sleep when she's tired. We're so I'm so glad we were led on to elimination communication on at a very early time. Maybe your audience is very familiar, maybe some aren't, but it is not early potty training. It is communication with your child because they are in tune with their body cues that they need to pee, they need to poop. They give you a cue. They're from the very beginning, they're in touch. Your listening is supporting the fact that they can be in touch with their body, and taking them to potty a few days old, holding them over the potty and letting them pee at maybe 20 minutes after nursing because you heard a little, a little, or you felt a little wiggle or something that indicated they were feeling the sensation in their body. And so these kind of intuitive things I was led to from the very beginning in parenting, I would put in this growth of respecting the child. They are whole and beautiful beings from the very start. But I've had to grow in recognizing it as they've gotten older. It's been a different journey, Belinda. I can give an example that first comes to mind. The food category. We talked about it. My husband and I, our health journey has come since having kids. And so right now we want to give our kids the most freedom that they can have within the environment we nurture for them. So I'm very intentional about the food that's in our house so that they can choose to make their lunch. They can choose to grab what they need because we've created options for them that give them freedom, but we've chosen the options and they're diverse. Um,
Right.
But in this evolution of health journey, there were times early on when my daughter was young and we were at a birthday party and she would reach for this sugar-filled artificial cupcake and my like stern no mama came in with a vengeance and I cringe thinking about it now of
Mm.
just how she was young and I was in some fear of like if she eats all that
Yes.
sugar and if she eats all that processed wheat and all of those things and those toxic dyes and the sprinkles, all these things. Like maybe many of us have been there in our
The
former
fear.
evolution and just being gracious with ourselves. It was part of a process I needed to go through, but it wasn't honoring and respecting. It was very stern. It was almost like I was getting, she could perceive it. I was getting angry at her. Where really
Yes.
I was more angry that this is how we celebrate young kids,
Yes.
but it looked like I was upset with her for reaching for this cupcake that now just giving them freedom to say, in our home, we provide you with freedom to choose from all these wonderful options to nourish your body. But when
Mhm.
we're out, you are free to choose. You
Yeah.
are a sovereign being.
Right.
We've told you why we choose what we do, but if
Right.
you're going to make a different decision than I would make, you're free to do that. And I won't judge you or shame you for it. But I'm
Right.
going to ask you, do you notice how you feel? Like you just had like a pound of processed sugar. Do you
Yeah.
feel funny? And my oldest has had some real stark, like fast kind of responses to that kind of decision. And she's even told her siblings about it. And why it's happening. And there's such freedom. Their
Yeah.
bodies are resilient. How we give them the freedom to make choices that are different than ours.
Yeah.
And it's another one with books. We're an unschooling family, but we love the library. We don't want to accumulate a lot of stuff in our own house. So we go to the library a lot, right? And not all the people my daughter interacts with, especially my 10-year-old, are follow our exact lifestyle or values, and that's okay. But she's gotten book recommendations for other people she's met along the way, and they wouldn't be books that I would read. But we're still at a loving connection where she says, "Hey, Mama, can you check out the parent reviews on so and so series?" Right?
Yeah.
And there are times where, wow, this is content that I will be honest with what kind of content and why. I don't think it's enriching for her mind at her
Right.
age. But she also chooses books that, to be honest, in my head, I'm like, those are crap. I don't know. It's like
Right.
they don't have like they don't follow a lifestyle that we really value. It's kind of petty in the interactions. But I let her read them, right?
Right. Because it's a
It's
judgment.
like and I ask her, "Hey, this isn't a book I choose to buy or have in our home, and here's why, but you seem interested in it. Like, what do you like about the characters? Like, what interests you? What have you learned?
Yeah.
Why are you interested in reading them?" And then I'll also reserve some really enriching, well-written, like, complex plot lines and good character development kind of series. I'll reserve some so that I
Yeah.
know that we have those options. But where are we letting go of these fears? "Oh, my kid's going to turn out this way if she reads these books or if
Right.
she eats these foods or and it's like
Yeah.
if we're operating in fear, how can we really just trust our children to
Mhm.
make decisions different than we might, share what we might do, but
Yeah.
respond in non-judgment so that they can grow and learn from their own empowerment, their own intuition. um, I I had a beautiful connection with this little one, our fourth, who's due in a few months, and I'll just share a little story because they gave me such this word picture that was so compelling and so aligned with this theme that you've brought up and respecting the sovereign beings that we are I've been entrusted with. I was just connecting with this child, and I heard something that said, "Mama, you're not going to labor." Like this sense of like doing all this hard work come time for my delivery. Mama, are you telling my toes to grow? Are you telling me when it's time to start hearing? Are you putting all my organs together? No. It's like the nourishing soil and I'm the seed with the innate wisdom to grow. I don't need you to tell me to do these things. I'm doing it on my own. And my debut into this world is going to be confident because I know what I need to do. I'll let you know. The contractions will let you know. I'll let you know what's happening. I'll like hold space for me the way you would lovingly nourish a seed. And then I got this picture, which I think will resonate with you. And this all that we've talked about. It's kind of this beautiful picture for this unschooling approach. that if you picture a toddler running up to you, let's say you're at the park with your kids, you're reading a book under a tree, grounding your feet and learning yourself while they meet new friends and have free time to just explore the woods. And one of them comes over to you, and it's your toddler, and she says, "Mama, I'm going to climb this tree up to that branch," and you could, or I want to get up to that branch in the tree, and you could one pick that child up and put them in the branch,
Mhm.
and they'll probably like, "Eh," wanna get
Yeah.
down and run off, right?
Right.
There
Right.
isn't a lot of intrigue when that happens.
Right.
Or 2, you can say, "Okay, put your foot there. Reach this way. Oh, don't do that. Oh, that branch is gonna break. Oh, be careful. Oh, reach a little higher," right? There's a lot of that happening in our
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
And then the 3rd one was, "Sure.
Yeah.
I'll be right here reading my book. I'm here. Go for it." And by the time that sweaty little child has beautifully tried all the techniques and swung their leg around finally to reach that branch, they're beaming, they're sweaty, they're empowered, and they're going to keep climbing that tree on their own with their own intrinsic motivation. And I feel like
Yes.
this little child in utero was just reinforcing all these ways that we're growing as a family to say that third option is what we're working toward. We hold space, we nurture like the soil, we are grounded so that we can give them the emotional arc when they're dysregulated, just to hold them without being triggered ourselves, and just hold the space for that emotional arc to play itself out. And we don't need to, good job, go here, do that. We can hold the loving space that has the confidence and trust to say, you can do it. I'm
Right.
here. And if
Right.
you don't, there's no shame. They don't even need to draw attention to, oh, you didn't make it this time. Try again. It's like, no, if they didn't make it, they try to come back another time. They don't
Yeah.
need an adult to tell them when and how
Right.
to do it. So
Right.
I just think that was such a sweet, beautiful communication with this fourth child that enforces so much of what your mission is about and this unschooling, self-directed
Yes.
learning is
Just
about.
deprogramming what from what we're used to. Even
Mhm,
in the story that you're telling, it's I will say that there was the fourth option, which is, okay,
mhm.
yeah, why don't you climb that tree? Why don't you tell me what are the steps that you're going to take?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? And
Mhm.
then you're basically like putting them into their headspace as opposed
Analytical,
to
yeah.
their imagination. And
Uh-huh.
you're also putting your own fears into it because
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
probably impossible to say, oh, that's probably not a good idea. Maybe
Right,
you
you
want
need
me,
to prove you're gonna do it
right?
safely.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Uh-huh.
like, it's really letting go,
Mhm,
like
mhm,
really letting go. And
mhm,
that is where the deprogramming comes in. That's where we have to do our own internal work. And what
mhm,
I love about the conversation that we have and what you continually bring into this space, Erin, is choice.
mhm.
From the get go, you
Yeah.
have always maintained that you have a choice.
Mhm,
And I think a lot of people forget that they have
mhm.
a choice.
Yes, yes, Belinda, thank you for saying that. I think that's so essential because I was listening to something and talking with a friend recently who feels a bit stuck in a dynamic she's in. And it's okay to feel stuck, but everything's always in flow and you always have a micro yes. That you don't have to make a huge decision, have the next big idea, the next big breakthrough. You can every day make one small choice, one small yes to step you in the direction more aligned. And we are never without options, but sometimes it feels that way. And we got to dig a little deeper to say, oh, I do have choices. I do have options. I do have yeses. So thank you. I think that's huge.
I think it's really important for parents to understand that, especially parents that have their kids in a conventional school. I
Mhm.
think from early on, if you know that you're going to put your child in a conventional school, stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah.
Take them take them
Mhm.
out of school. Guess what? Today's Wednesday, we're not going to school today. We're going to go get some ice cream. Wait, what? But like what about it doesn't matter. We're just
Yeah.
going to go do that. That way
Yeah.
you can show them that they have a choice to step
Mhm.
into joy.
Yes.
It's so
Mhm.
important to exercise that muscle for your child, but more so for yourself.
Yes. Yes. Of oh, they're going to call me and say, why didn't you send your kid to school today? They're not going to get a perfect attendance. It's going to reflect on your parenting. So much work that we have to do ourselves in order to give ourselves the freedom that give our kids the freedom to
Yeah.
make these decisions and choices. Absolutely. Thank you, Belinda. That's a good one.
I'm going to take a sick day. I'm going to
Mhm,
take a sick day and I'm going to take my kid out for ice cream.
mhm, mhm. And I don't have to
That's
tell
so fun.
anyone where we were going, what we
Yeah.
were doing. I'm
Right.
not accountable. I just think this is good for our family, so we're going to do it.
And the company's not going to
Yeah.
crumble to pieces if I don't show up that one
Yeah.
4 hours or whatever.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the topic of choice and making your own decisions. And it reminds me of a question I've loved to ask and have been increasingly intentional in my own life is what choice do I make about how I wake up when I'm in that state before I get out of bed and when I'm thinking and I'm alert, I know I'm not going to doze back off. What choice am I making about how I view my day, how I think about it, how I visualize it? Am I picturing the love and the smiles of my children and my husband flourishing? Am I picturing how I look at them with joy and smile and start our day? Am I picturing the possibilities? Am I asking myself, I wonder who I'm going to meet today. I wonder what opportunity I'm going to have to grow. I wonder what miracle is going to come my way. I wonder if I get to be someone's miracle today. I wonder, and we're setting ourselves up with conscious choice. Nothing's happened yet. We're still in bed.
Right. Right.
But our whole perspective has shifted. And this is a choice that's free, that's
Yep.
available to everybody.
Yep.
And it really does change the trajectory of our whole lives. That I just love some of those simple practices that can really set us all up for the real kind of success.
Yes, and I love that you mentioned that because it does work and I do it. And what I find, I keep telling my friends, like
Mhm,
it's not that when you set that intention, the first thing that you think about when you get out of bed that you set that intention and then you're
mhm.
thinking about that intention all day. It's
Yeah.
not that.
Mhm.
Like I will wake up and I'll say, I'm gonna find humor today
Mhm.
and I'll just go about my day. I'll
Yeah.
completely forget that I even said that. And come evening time, I'll be in an experience where I'm like, oh, I'm literally laughing at this. When
Yes.
normally I would have gotten annoyed.
Yes, yes,
And
and you're
so it's
like,
like,
"Wow, I did some gracious work with my subconscious this morning,
yeah,
and I let it play out in an organic way, but now I'm conscious enough to realize the gift that it was connected to a
yeah,
choice I made before I got out of bed."
right. It's so simple. It's
Yes.
so simple, yet
Mhm,
generally speaking, people
mhm.
don't believe it and they don't do it.
Yeah, and so we're stuck in our same patterns, and
Mhm.
understandably so. And so may whoever's listening, may this be a gift and an offering of what one choice do you want to make today
Just
for
try
your
it.
children, for yourself, for your
Mhm.
partnerships, for your lifestyle choices? What one choice would you feel intuitively renewed to say, I'm empowered with that. I don't need to be stuck or think that my external situation is dictating my life for me. I have more choice. So may that be an encouraging word for all of us.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be big. You
Hmm.
can literally open your eyes and say, today is going to be a great day.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
And it will be.
Hmm. Hmm. And I have what it takes to approach whatever comes.
Yeah.
Like a level of, just acknowledgement of one's resilience and one's capability and confidence in oneself and one's ability to navigate whatever comes and see what comes.
Yeah.
And beautiful things definitely will. And those growth points will become growth points too,
Yeah.
because we'll see them in new light.
Yeah. I think what I've gotten from this conversation is just this curiosity and
Mhm,
learning from our children and the trust factor.
mhm,
And I really appreciate you bringing that because when you shared that story about the elimination communication,
mhm, mhm,
when you learn that, it's really helping us to be more in touch with our own intuition
mhm,
as
mhm.
we dial into the child's because we can see that the child has that. We have that, we have it too.
Yes, yes.
And it's again practicing that muscle.
Mhm, mhm,
And when you were talking about your new baby coming in
mhm,
and giving you that message, it
mhm,
reminds me of a picture of gardening again. We
Mhm,
just water the plant.
mhm,
We
mhm,
don't go in and
mhm.
like dig into the roots to see how much root has been growing and then
Rowan?
stick it back in and
Yeah.
then like
Uh-huh.
keep checking. We
Mhm,
just trust the process. We
mhm.
can do that with our children.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And isn't it a beautiful unfolding? We get to witness and be part of the most extraordinary evolution of growth. And just to think that in this cultivation, this is the future. We're living our legacy. We're living out what future generations. We're thinking with a long-term vision. I'm not just thinking what curriculum do I need for my kids when they're 10, 6, and 3. I'm thinking what legacy, what vision do we have for generations after I've died and been buried under a tree that's now growing apples for my great grandchildren? Like
Right, right.
we've opened ourselves up to think with a view of what could be even past our earthly existence. And I think that is really renewing for our souls as we get in touch with what our own callings are. So,
Yeah, and it also is based in our values.
mhm,
We forget that we have values
mhm.
because we just give everything away to the external environment.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Absolutely.
Thank you, Erin. That was such a lovely conversation.
I've
Did you have
thoroughly
anything?
enjoyed time with you, Belinda.
Did you have anything else you wanted to share? Any last words before we end our time together?
Yeah, thank you for that invitation. We've touched on so many beautiful themes, and whether it's the trust, whether it's the choices, the empowerment, but I just want to reiterate the word curiosity. It is something that our children are born with, and we don't ever want to program it out of them. But for those of us who need to deprogram some of our own background and upbringing, restoring that childlike curiosity is invaluable. And our children, if we're humble enough and sensitive enough, our children can help activate it in us because it's there. It's always been there. Whether it was programmed out, it's always been there. And what a joy that we can all continue to live curiously about the world around us, about the beautiful souls around us. And I think that will compel us all the more to the love mission that each one of us are on. So may that be a word that cheers as we finish our conversation. But that one has continued to ring true for me if I keep that in the forefront.
Thank you, Erin.
Mhm. Thank you, Belinda. What a joy to spend time with you.
I'll speak with you soon.